Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 7 of this season, season 18. Can you believe we've been running that long? Of your favorite competition show featuring your favorite nations, countries, principalities, and nations. It's time to conquer! Now, before we really get started, let's spend the beginning of this episode taking a glance back at our favorite competitors, the long-standing champions, the Ottoman Empire. Here we are at the end of season 13. After more than a season of winning challenge after challenge, the Ottomans have become a major force in this competition. It all started with Orhan and his leadership of Turkish warriors, known as Ghazis, against the shrinking Byzantine state. At the beginning of his rule in season 13, in episode 24, the Ottoman Empire encompassed an area in Anatolia stretching from Dorylaeum to the plains of Nicaea, and by episode 45 had expanded to include northwestern Anatolia and Karasi. Let's watch some footage from these conquests.
Orhan's son Murad continued this trend after episode 60, moving northward into Thrace and capturing Adrianople and through the Maritsa River Valley to take Philippopolis, in what ended up being a major contributing force to the success of future Ottoman conquests. Murad began incorporating European vassals, allowing local rulers to stay in power as long as they accepted his rule, paid annual tributes, and provided contingents for his army when required. With this policy in place, Murad ended his reign with the defeat of the Balkan allies in the Battle of Kosovo. Here's a look at what led to this climactic feat.
Rock, paper, scissors, Rock, paper, scissors, Rock, paper, scissors, It's not until season 14 with Murad's son Bayezid that we finally see a break in the power of the Ottomans. Bayezid, after annexing the remaining Turkmen in western Anatolia and many eastern states as well, including Constantinople, attracted the attention of Timur, a powerful ruler in control of a Tartar empire from Central Asia to Mesopotamia.
As the two leaders moved toward battle, Bayezid lost major support from Turkmen vassals and Muslim followers, who abandoned him for not following their traditions. With only support of Christian vassals, Bayezid was defeated at the Battle of Ankara in episode 2 of season 14. Taken captive, Bayezid died within a year. For the first time since their rise to power, the Ottomans experienced internal divisions that kept them from returning to full force for 11 episodes. Four of Bayezid's sons, Suleiman, Mehmed, Musabbeh, and Isabbeh, competed with each other for control of the empire. In the end, Mehmed prevailed, killing his brothers and taking control of the whole empire as sultan. Mehmed and his son Murad II began a new round of Ottoman expansion. After restoring the empire to what it had been under Bayezid, Murad then began the first of many wars against the city-state Venice, beginning in episode 23.
Finally, by episode 30, the Ottomans had built a strong enough navy fleet to take Salonika along with raids against other Venetian ports in the Adriatic and Aegean seas.
The war was indecisive for a few episodes because Venice was diverted by conflicts in Italy and didn't have the force to meet the Ottomans on land. While the Ottomans needed time to build up a naval force equal to Venetians. This prompted Venice to make peace in episode 42. They abandoned efforts to prevent the Ottomans' advance to the Adriatic, but became the leading commercial power in the Sultan's dominions. Murad then returned focus to European expansion to appease his Christian supporters in reducing the power of the Turks by renewing the struggle with Hungary and Serbia and Wallachia, beginning in episode 34. Taking advantage of the death of the Hungarian king, Murad reoccupied Serbia and ravaged much of Hungary. With the annexation of Serbia in episode 39, he began implementing a new policy of replacing ruling vassals with direct Ottoman control throughout the empire.
This conflict continued until episode 44, where the increased influence of Turkish notables in Murad's court prompted him to agree to the Peace of Erdene, allowing Serbia to regain autonomy, Hungary to keep Wallachia and Belgrade, and the Ottomans promising to end their raids north of the Danube.
Murad also made peace with his main Anatolian enemy and then retired to a life of religious contemplation, leaving the empire to his son Mehmed II. The Byzantines and the Pope sought to take advantage of a new, inexperienced leader to expel the Ottomans from Europe, gaining the support of Hungary and Venice by assuring them that they were not bound to honor the peace treaty that they had signed with the Ottomans. This crusade was relatively unsuccessful and was the last important European crusade against the Ottomans. Murad then returned to the throne and, by his death in episode 51, had taken control of much of Thrace, Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Greece, and had firmly taken control of the Danube frontier. It's time for a short commercial break, but after we come back, we will recap Mehmed II's return back to power after his father's death, and his conquest after the conquest of Constantinople, and eliminating the last major claimants to the Byzantine throne.
Do you want to retain your own religious laws? Do you want to keep your tradition and language under the protection of the Sultan? Establish your own self-governing religious community. If you're part of a major religious group and your group are eligible for a millet and keep everything you could ever want, but also be recognized and protected by our great Sultan. Travel to the capital for more information, or just set up your very own millet.
And we're back on Conquer. If you're just joining us now, we have been recapping the history of one of our most esteemed and powerful competitors, the Ottoman Empire. We were just about to see some amazing footage from season 14 with Mehmed II and the inauguration of the Second Ottoman-Venetian War beginning in episode 63.
It seemed all hope was lost for the Ottoman Empire, with Turkmen invading Anatolia, intensified Venetian attacks in Morea, Hungary moving into Serbia, and an attack on Bosnia. Against all odds, the Ottomans prevailed, neutralizing the forces in Anatolia in episode 73, initiating naval raids along the Adriatic coast leading to peace with Venice in episode 79, and using the power gained from these victories, held off the fighting in Serbia and Bosnia.
Unfortunately, all of this fighting required a lot of military spending, and Mehmed struggled to find the means to acquire ample funding that didn't end in long-term social and economic downfall. He regularly withdrew all coins from circulation and replaced them with new ones with more base alloys than the previous ones. To enforce this, he sent armed bands around the empire to force the return of all old, more valuable coins. This debasement of the coinage caused inflation, which disturbed the industry and trade the Sultan was trying to promote.
Mehmed also created monopolies over the production and use of essential goods, distributing them amongst the highest bidders, who in turn created outrageous prices and fake shortages to ensure profit. He also established the principle that all revenue-producing property belonged to the Sultan, prompting him to confiscate much private property and religious lands, creating much resentment from all who lost their revenues, undermining both the state and the Sultan. These efforts solved many of the immediate problems, but I, for one, am worried about the long-term consequences.
The reign of Mehmed II's successor, Bayezid II, was a relatively restful period for the Ottomans. While he did conquer territory north of the Danube, and desired control of Muslim holy cities of Mecca and Medina, Bayezid much preferred to focus on internal development.
Now we continue to season 15, when, wishing to return to the intense conquering under Mehmed II, Selim I replaced Bayezid, and not wishing to ever have to deal with a power struggle for his throne, killed all of his brothers and their sons, and 4 of his sons, leaving only the most able as his sole successor.
In one fell swoop, Selim almost doubled the size of the empire with the defeat of the Safavid army at Chaldiran and the win against the Mamluks, adding all of the old Islamic kingdom with the exception of Iran and Mesopotamia.
Wow, the Ottomans are really quite adept at conquer.
Really? I think they might be losing their charm, but they've always pulled it out by the end. Do you remember season 15, episode 37? Let's look at some of the footage. The Grand Admiral Barbossa of Suleiman I, who was ruler beginning in season 15, episode 20 through episode 66, launched a major attack on southern Italy, expecting a promised French attack in the north with the objective of a joint conquest in Italy. But France, fearing a hostile European reaction to its alliance with the infidel, withheld the diversion and left the Ottomans hanging.
Then the mercenary naval commander under King Charles I of Spain, Andrew Doris, organized and led an allied European naval force against the Ottomans, but it was routed in season 15, episode 38 at the Battle of Preveza off the Albanian coast. Venice then surrendered the Morea and the Dalmatia, its last possession in the Aegean Sea, thus assuring an Ottoman naval supremacy in the eastern Mediterranean that remained unbroken for 3 decades. But then, in episode 71, their navy was destroyed by the fleet of the Holy League at the Battle of Lepanto. Fortunately, they were able to rebuild and regain naval mastery in the eastern Mediterranean through the rest of the 15th and 16th seasons. The reign of Suleiman I the Magnificent seems to have marked the peak of Ottoman grandeur, but there have been many signs of weakness. Do you think that our longtime champions have started a slow decline?
Maybe so. The Sultans seem to have less ability and power now.
Reforms introduced during the season 16 were too limited in nature and scope, however, to permanently arrest the Ottoman decline. The reforms essentially were no more than efforts to restore the inherited system of government and society that had operated successfully in the past. The only changes that were debased coins were replaced by coins of full value. Industry and trade were encouraged. Corrupt officials executed, insubordination driven out. Welcome back to season 18 of Conquer. After that intense recap, we are finally back.
Do you think they'll be able to pull out another win? The last couple seasons were pretty intense.
Let's see what reforms they have in store for this season to try to win once again.
Mehmed II, known as the determined reformer and the Ottoman westernizer, recognized the need for a change in the state. The empire was disintegrating in a power struggle between rival notables, and he had to safeguard his position while not offending powerful sections of the community, and he convinced the other powers of the Ottoman Empire was still effective in unitary states. He wanted to revive the active rule of the sovereign. During the last 13 episodes of Mehmed II's reign, major reforms took place. The army and navy modernized, an official court gazette was published, new government departments were set up, the Sultan himself appeared in westernized uniform, and also a frock coat, black trousers, and fez replaced the flowing robes and turbans of the past for court functionaries and civil servants. Whoa! What are the Ottomans doing? What happened to those reforms? They seem like they are struggling to work together. Some of their team members look seeing conspiracies and not wanting to continue on as Ottomans. Do you think that they can do better on their own?